Friends and family of Instagram, this is not a drill. I'm going to tell you about my experience of the coronavirus. So I've just returned from northern Italy, in Lombardy, in Lombardia, where it's kind of just got really not out of control, because they've obviously been doing everything that they can to control it, but it's got particularly bad. So this is where the virus started. So when Lucia and I'm finding it really difficult to breathe, and I'm just a bit concerned. So when Lucia and I went on the 22nd, they'd only had 3 cases at this point. When we arrived at when we arrived in Italy at passport control, they basically lined us all up in these hazmat suits with the big masks on, and tested each and every one of our temperature. So obviously this was a big precaution for entering Italy, even though that's where they had the cases, and we were coming from England. We spent 2 weeks there, best part of 2 weeks. We came back yesterday, and we arrived at East Midlands. So we flew from Milan Bergamo. The majority of the time that we were in Italy, in fact all but one day, we spent basically in Lucia's parents' house, which drove us slightly insane. But we saw family and friends fairly infrequently. We didn't go out, didn't go to any restaurants. I went to 2 supermarkets the whole time we were there, because I wanted to help. And spent loads of time in. So we weren't exposing ourselves unnecessarily. And actually the majority of things were closed while we were in Italy, including restaurants, a lot of Chinese restaurants. People were refusing to go to, because obviously there's quite a large population of Chinese people in North Italy, for whatever reason, I don't know, but the concern was about going to Chinese places initially, I think, because in case someone had come back from where the virus had initially started. And honestly, I promise you I haven't been running. I haven't done any exercise in a really long time. So everything was closed. The schools were closed almost as soon as we got there. We didn't go to any restaurants, didn't go to any shops, didn't do any shopping, didn't do anything nice. And the day that we went to the castle, there were probably about 10 other people there, obviously in a distance away from us. The only time that Lucia and I had contact with anyone was yesterday at the airport, where obviously you can't help that. On the flight back, there were only 80 people, and I worked this out, so, I mean, my maths could be wrong, but there were 33 rows and six seats per row, so the capacity of the plane was 198. There were only 80 people on the plane, so it was very empty. And as a consequence, we went through airport security very quickly, passport control. And when we got to England, so bear in mind, England already yesterday had 40 cases, 39 cases, whatever it was. Didn't do anything. All they did was obviously passport control. You put your passport through. Some silly bitch that couldn't understand English or do anything, like, she was just stood there like this, and it was saying remove passport anyway. Got through that, expecting at least something, because obviously we've come from the place outside of Asia with the highest population of coronavirus, and the flight was from Milan Bergamo, where there's a huge amount of risk. Nothing. They stopped people that looked foreign to ask some questions like their life story. Like this poor bloke in front has lived in England for 35 years. He was Italian because he had an Italian passport, and he'd be about to see his family, and they were asking him everything that you want to know, but that's nothing to do with me. But they did nothing. So I need to urge you all to be really careful, because there could be people walking around England now that have been to the outbreak places or been through areas, and that although Lucia and I were not in the quarantined towns in Lombardy, we were in the city of Brescia, and we were in contact with people in the airport. So there are going to be other people like us in the country. So please just be really vigilant, be really careful, and keep away, because England aren't taking any precautions at all and stopping people coming into the country. and or even checking people when they come in the country and quarantining them. I'm not asking them to stop people coming in the country, but you know, certain precautions need to be taken, and they're not taking them. So England and Boris, you deserve everything you get at this point.